Hey to everyone out there. Thank you for checking out my YouTube channel. I know this is blessing someone, inspiring someone, helping someone to be the best that they can be in the presence of the Father as they walk this life, knowing that they have grace, forgiveness, and love, and that the Father is always directing and speaking to them. Um, I want to title this video or probably give this theme of you are not defined by, or either excuses are not acceptable. And that's not to put anyone down that missed the mark. That's not to put anyone in a bad thought process or feel bad about themselves or make them feel condemned if you have not made it to where you want to be in life, or you have not done a thing that you know you should be doing. Because everyone got to work through procrastination. Everyone got to work through their hindrance or they whatever they got going on. Because sometimes it takes us a moment to get things right. It takes us a moment to get our mind right, to get our thought process clear, and make a wholehearted decision to pursue the thing that we know we should be doing, that God had called us to do, that we know that we should be doing in our life. And with that being said, once again, no condemnation. God always forgive you. God is always encouraging you. If that's through other people, if that through ministry of the angel, if that through himself talking to you saying, it's okay, get back up, let's do this again, or let's go this direction. God is always there. And he's never there to push you down or make you feel bad or make you feel like you are worthless, but you are valuable, that you are important, that you are loved. But I don't want to get too far away from what I want to really say. And that is, excuse is not acceptable. You are not defined by what people have done in your life, caught you to be, and what family patterns you may have in your life. And I am one of those prime examples that I am not defined by my parents. I'm not defined by what people have called me in life, what they thought I would have been because of my parents or because of where I came from. That excuses are not acceptable, because I did not allow excuses to hinder me from being the best. I didn't allow excuses from stopping me to working on myself to be better. I didn't allow excuses to keep me down, in other words. And what I mean by that, and let me go back a little bit. Just like anyone, I have parents. I have two parents, and they were both absent in my life. One decided of their own conscience to be absent. The other one had a um mental illness, I'll put it like that. And so by that issue, they were not around. So I grew up in rejection, abandonment. Um, I grew up not feeling love. Um, Now I may have had family members around, because no, by the grace of God, I didn't go into the foster system. I did not go into juvenile delinquent. I was basically within my family, but it was not always peaches and cream. It was not always sunshine. Um, a lot of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time, I felt as a burden. Was told in so many words that I was a burden to them, because my parent did not pick up their parental duties and raise me as they should. And as a kid, that does something to you when you hear those type of things, and you don't. Number one, your mind can't process that right. It does something to you. I can't explain it in the right word, but just it does add on to that abandonment. It does add on to that rejection, because now you're a Christian. Why my parents don't want me? Why they don't love me? Especially if you try to be a good kid, especially trying to bring home good grade, your behavior. It's not, riding out. It's not a disturbed behavior. You're trying your best to be what you think is a good a good kid growing up. And you're looking at other kids having it, maybe their mother, some have both, some may have that grandmother, or that grandparent that just love them. So I didn't have that. And for me, my grandmother, she was around. However, and she loved me. My grandmama did love me, and that's probably one of the finest memories of my childhood is my grandmother. But my grandmother died when I was about 11 from cancer, so that shook the my foundation. That shook my foundation to the core, because I knew at that moment, that was a pivotal moment in my life. I knew that things were not going to be the same for me again. I knew that um, no one was going to attempt to love me the way she did. Because, a lot of times, people don't realize grandparents are, or should be, I say, because every grandparent is not right. Every grandparent is not lovable or have that love. But grandparent is the second line of parents. They step in when mom and dad don't. They step in with almost the same amount of love and attention that you would have received from your parents. And that's probably one of the experiences that I do have that was, as I said, the funnest and the best is the love of my grandmother. But back to that. Excuses, because how I grew up, family member, though, that was around me in my circle, which were basically family members, that knew where I came from, knew my parents. I could hear them talking, said, would she be like her mother? Would she be like her father? And I heard the thing. The thing was embedded into my thought process. And I grew up, I didn't know about people, or I didn't know how people was. I didn't know about affirmation. I didn't know about you live by the words you have in your life. So when I was young and right out of high school, I had my first baby. I had a daughter. And didn't know, because not only I came from a absent parent home, I came really from no love. I came from rejection. I came from no parentalship, if that makes sense. So I didn't have skills and ideas on what a mother looked like, really. Not beside what you got off of TV at the time, And here I am in a relationship, and here I am with a child. And it's by the grace of God that I learned. It's by the grace of God that He gave me a nurturing spirit, a loving spirit, to be better than what was put as an example in my eye. Because the example I was given was to walk out the door. The example that I had displayed to me was not to care, not to love, not to seek the best interest of my kids, to be in and out of their lives. That's the example I was given. To be, hurtful, to allow for my parents, to allow, their childhood trauma affect them so much into their adulthood that they were willing to pass it on to their kids. Not to think and say, let me make a different decision. So when I had my child, and then I continue on to have kids, I have 6. At the end of the day, I have 6 kids. But I made a decision not to allow excuses to define my character, to define who I am. I decided to not allow excuses to make me how my parent was to me. I made it up in my mind, my heart, to show up, to be the best, and do the best. And then not saying that I made mistakes. I had to learn. I had to grow. But one thing, I showed up for my kids. The excuses that my parent gave me was not acceptable to me. By the grace of God, God gave me the strength and continue to give me the strength. Let me say, God continue to give me the strength every day to get up in the morning in my right mind, with energy in my body, with good health, to provide for my kid, to give them love, to develop a relationship with them, to put their best interests in front of mine, and say, let me think about what they need. Let me think about what would be best, not only for myself, but them as well. Because easily, it was the devil plan, and he set it up. He gave me 2 parents that didn't show up. It was in my family generation. It was my family plan for me not to show up for my kids. For me to say, let me be in and out your life. Let me be unstable. Let me give you rejection. Let me not give you love. Let me not care about your feelings. Let me not care about how you doing today. That was in the devil plan. But by the grace of God, God said, let me put in her a new heart, a new mind, a new way of thinking. And I didn't even know I was walking into that until I got a little bit older, and I look back over my life, and I look back that every day of my children's life, I have been there. I have not missed a day. I have not missed a day. And that's all by the grace of God. That's all by His will. Because it's not my will. If it were in my will, if it were in my, the curse would have consumed me and said, just leave your kid wherever you leave them. Don't care about them. Walk out the door. You can say that you have you could allow, mental illness to take over. Cause I could have easily, just thought in fear that I would have been like my mother. I could easily thought in fear I would have been like my father. And not care to know. But by the grace of God, He gave me a new mind, a new heart, a new way of thinking. And that broke generation curses in my life. That broke generation curses in my life. And made me pursue something different. To take up a different path. And walk in love. Walk in the call of being a mother. And so I want to say to some folks that feel like, well, my family is addicted to alcohol. My family is addicted to lust. My family is addicted to being thieves, robbery. My family have this addiction to food. My family have this addiction to being have this addiction to being liars and manipulator. My family have this addiction to being abusive. This is my family generation curse that they are sending down, and this is what I will become. I'm going to tell you right now, reject that. Decline that notion. And know that God power, know that God love, knowing that God grace will overtake those things and replace it with the right thing that you should be. But it has to start with what you believe, with what you say, and what you think that line up with the word of God. You don't have to be defined by what your family say. You don't have to be defined by what people say about you on the street. Because let me say something. They talked about me on the street. Even until right now, people call me the worst mother. People call me evil. People call me sick. People call me crazy. They talk about me right now. But God, in my life, they say, she's not those things. She is defined by what I called her to be. And I walk in that purpose. I walk in that grace. I walk in that definition. I don't walk by what people call me. I don't walk in the excuses that people want to give me. I walk in what God had given me. His plan. His plans are life and prosperity, peace and joy. I walk in that. So I'm challenging you to do the same thing. Walk in what God called you to be. What's your purpose in God's plan? Ask Him, how do He see you? Ask Him to give you His imagination, His ideal of your life that He have planned for you, and not what your family, not what your friend, and not people on the street say. You don't have to go by that. Excuses are not acceptable. So live the best life that God has for you. Seek it and walk it out. I hope that they bless someone, help someone. As I always say, walk in love, live by grace. Not even walking. It's walk in love, grow in grace, and live by faith. Until then, stay blessed.